The team banner is here, so there's not much of a surprise with who is going to be on this banner. I'm very interested to see what is on the banner, right? What kind of skills are we going to be getting here? How do they work? And does Ayra have like slaying too, or does she have a one special cooldown? Let's jump in and find out. Okay, there's Lystihea. We know she's a colorless flyer. Okay, let's start at the top with her preference weapon, Baked Treats. Okay, so we have Canto 1, Slaying. At start of turn, Lystihea will inflict speed and resistance -6 and sabotage on the nearest foe within 5 spaces of herself and foes within 2 spaces of that unit. So sabotage is the effect we saw on like Duo Mark, right? And it's a really powerful effect. Essentially what it does is like doubles your penalties in a sense, but it's not just based off the unit, it's based off the unit and any allies within 2 spaces. So it's kind of like Yune's effect almost, but not exactly, right? It's not true damage. But it's still a very, very powerful effect, and it's really good, especially against something like Legendary Robin, right, who is taking advantage of debuffs. This kind of gives you a way to like take advantage of it yourself. So I think that's really, really good already. And then as she initiates combat, or if she's within 2 spaces of an ally, she's getting attack and speed +6, she gets offensive, no follow-up, and she neutralizes foes' bonuses to speed and resistance. So overall, this is a pretty powerful weapon, right? You're getting pretty much everything you want on a flying unit. You're getting stats, you're getting neutralization of bonuses, right? And you're even taking advantage of debuffs, so it's pretty nice. And Canto 1. Canto 1 is so valuable on flying range units. It's so much better than Canto Remaining, right? So it's very, very good. The only thing missing so far like is some kind of way to pierce damage reduction. But luckily, Lystihea does have a preference A skill in Mastermind. So let's see what this does. Okay, so Mastermind, essentially what it does is at the start of turn 1, Lystihea is going to deal 1 damage to herself. This is a very nice effect. Just by itself, it's very good because it allows you to do things like manipulation of HP. And this allows you to do strategies like Vantage or like Gale Force, right? Because you can manipulate HP to get yourself within Wings of Mercy range or into Vantage range. So already very good right there. But also if a Lystihea initiates combat or if she's within 2 spaces of an ally, she's going to get attack and speed +9 during combat, and she gets true damage. But this true damage is based off X plus Y. That's right. So if you've never thought you had to pay attention to math class, you were wrong. You definitely need to know math to do Fae. And so X is going to equal 80% of the highest total bonuses among Lystihea and allies within 2 spaces. So typically the highest you can get is about 24, right? You can technically 28, but it's pretty difficult to do. So 80% of 24 is 19.2. So you're getting 19.2 true damage just from the X, right? That's nuts. And then Y is going to equal 80% of the highest total penalties among target and foes within 2 spaces of the target. So with just her weapon, she's giving out 12, right? And so 80% of that is like 9.6, which is like, I think they rounded up to 10. So right there, like that's already like what, 28 true damage on a hit? That's really scary. And that's not even like thinking about max penalties, right? You can get a lot more penalties than you can get bonuses thanks to things like, you know, Dark Shrine and Bright Shrine and stuff like that. So you can get some insane penalties here. And there's sabotage to think about it too. So like you're really doubling down, even tripling down on penalties here with Lystihea. And that's really scary because that's a ton of true damage. Now the one thing missing of course is DR piercing. So that is something to be concerned about. But even so, when you're just pumping out a ton of damage like this, it's going to be really scary, especially if you consider Desperation 4. So let's check that out. Okay, so Desperation 4, essentially what this is going to do is you're going to inflict speed -4 on the foe, just getting a little bit more speed in your B slot, which is always nice. And then if your HP is less than or equal to 99% and you initiate combat, you're going to get the Desperation effect. But there's a second condition as well. And that's if you've moved at least 2 spaces before you initiate, you're also going to get the Desperation effect. So this actually is pretty cool because if it was only the 99% HP condition, it's honestly not that strong. And the reason for that is there's not many units who can put themselves into that 99% HP condition consistently. It's like mostly like Lysitheas and Bernadettas, right? And so being able to do this by just moving 2 spaces is very, very nice. And then you could go into combat, maybe take some recoil damage in that combat, and then after that, Desperation 4 will just be active all the time. So I think this is actually pretty cool. I don't think it's like meta breaking, and I don't think it's like the most powerful B skill we've ever gotten, but it is pretty nice. It's a nice little upgrade over Desperation 4, so I'm pretty happy with it. And then lastly, we have attack speed of 4, which is once again just going to make Lystihea better, right? She's going to get warping, she's going to get those visible bonuses, meaning that she can enable visible bonuses and the penalties by herself, just to make sure that Mastermind's already working. And then of course with other like synergies, you can make Mastermind even more powerful. Now when it comes to roles, obviously Lystihea is a nuke. That's the main thing she wants to do. She wants to just destroy things completely. And when I think about how good she's going to be at that, I think she's definitely going to be strong. I don't think she's going to be like a tier 1 nuke. And of course that is the reason. And of course the reason for that is that she's not infantry typically. Infantry just have access to like damage reduction halving, damage reduction piercing, and she does not have that. Not like someone like Legendary Veronica, who has it in like her PRF skill, right? So I think that will hold Lystihea back a little bit. Not saying that she's not good though. The amount of power she has here is insane. Like, she has a ton of damage here, and the only thing holding it back will be that damage reduction. So once they introduce a mage like DR piercing special, I think Lysithea's value will go up. But overall, I do think she's a very solid unit. When it comes to game modes she could be good in, I could definitely see her being used in like Ether Raid's defense. Being able to apply Sabotage is really powerful, and it can make all your rest of your nukes on your team help her out a little bit. So I could see her maybe being used there. I could also see her being used in Summoner Duels because she is a flying nuke, and flying nukes are really good right now because of 1, Hinoka giving out charge, and 2, Guidance 4 and Soaring Guidance. So obviously she is definitely usable in SD. I don't know if she's going to be a top tier choice, but she's definitely usable in SDS. Okay, let's move on to our next hero of this banner. There's Sigurd. Oh man, I am really excited for Sigurd. Sigurd is just such a great character and unit. Consistently in Fae, right? Like, I love him. And his art. Suzuki Ruka does not miss. She always puts out the best art. Okay, here it is. Here it is. Let's start off at the top with Knightly Manner, his preference weapon. Okay, we have Slaying, and then if his HP is greater than or equal to 25%, he's going to get plus $5 stats and a guaranteed follow-up attack. He'll also deal damage equal to 15% of his attack, but not with AoEs. And then this is the cool thing. If the foe uses sword, lance, axe, magic, staff, dragonstone, or beast damage, they can't attack. They can't counterattack. So it's essentially like a sweep effect, right? So the only things that's really counterattacking is like what, bows and daggers, which is like very interesting. I'm not sure why. Maybe there's some kind of lore I'm missing here, but that is very powerful. Because I was thinking about Sigurd, right? He's not really fast, so like he might struggle to secure kills. But if he can just attack things and not get counterattacked, that's really powerful. Allows him to counter advantage, which means that he is going to be better on a lot more game modes. So I think that's a really cool effect. Love that. But let's check out Chivalric Aura, his new preference special. Okay, so essentially what this does is it has a time pulse effect. So if Sigurd's cooldown is at max at the beginning of turn, it will be reduced by 1. He already has Slaying, so if it's at 1 cooldown, it will give you charge, which is really, really good. And it's not like a quick impulse effect. This is every single turn. So that's very, very strong. He also gets to boost his damage by 25% of his attack, and then after combat, if the special is triggered, he'll be able to do attack. He'll be able to grant attack plus 6 and plus of movement to himself and all allies. So it is very much like Holy Knight Aura. It's a little bit different, right? It's not giving him like 4 movement, but as a ranged unit, he doesn't need 4 movement as much, though it would be cracked if he did have it. So that is to say something. The best part really is that it removed the biggest weakness of Holy Knight Aura. Because a lot of times with Legendary Sigurd, you would just run Quick and Pulse on him so you can make sure his special was charged, right? And now you don't have to do that. And not only do you not have to do that, it happens every turn. So this is really, really powerful. I love this a ton. We also have a new skill in Remote Sturdy, which sounds so stupid. They should have thought of a new name for that. But essentially what this does is going to give you attack plus 7, defense plus 10, and then 30% damage reduction in player phase, which is a nice little upgrade. Definitely there's going to be units who want to use this. So that's very nice. It's going to make Sigurd a little bit more tanky and also allow him to just like smack stuff a little bit harder as well. So when it comes to Sigurd's role, I think Sigurd essentially has 2 roles, right? He has a nuke role and he has a support role. And the thing is, as a nuke, I think Sigurd's going to be kind of mid, to be honest. And the reason for that is very simple, right? He's a slower cavalry unit who's relying on a guaranteed follow-up attack. And in today's meta, there's just so many ways to either deny follow-up attacks or to use defensive no follow, right? Like in Hardy Fighter, to just stop those completely. And also, like, units are really tanky. So I think Sigurd's going to struggle a bit to actually secure kills. But his other role is as a support. And as a support, I think Sigurd is very good, right? Being able to give +1 movement to the entire team is really strong. And the best part is that sweep skill. Because with that sweep skill, he can essentially engage safely, and then he can get dance and go attack again. And when he does that, he'll have an extra range of movement. So he won't be, 3 movement, he'll be 4 as a ranged mage, right? Which is really scary. And once he starts hitting like, more squishy units on your team, he's going to be able to kill them. So I think this is like actually pretty strong. When it comes to game modes, I think there's 2 game modes we're going to see Sigurd being used in. The number 1, I think, is going to be Ether Raid's defense for sure. We've seen this with Legendary Sigurd, and Legendary Sigurd was definitely not as good as this, in my opinion. While he did have a bigger threat range with 4 movement, he had weaknesses, and there was ways to like kind of like bait him or to turn off his special, right? And then you could deal with him. But with this, Sigurd's going to be able to just go in and like smack something typically. If they don't have NCD, he's going to survive. He's going to make the whole team have bigger threat range, and he's going to be able to get dance. So like, that's a lot of power. That's really scary. And also it's going to be a lot more difficult to shut him down, right? Technically, you could use something like Element with false start, but there's also Freyr now who could turn off false start. So there's definitely going to be some like very interesting defenses using Sigurd. The other game mode I could see him possibly being used in is like SDS. I don't think he's good enough for SDR, but maybe I'm wrong. Maybe there's some kind of like crazy duo dagger Congo line that can make use of the Sigurd. But in SDS, there's always ways to like make really fun teams, and getting extra movement can definitely catch your opponent off guard. So I definitely think he could show up in SDS for sure. Okay, let's move on to our next unit, our demote for the banner. And there is Ferdinand. So we have T times set, speed, rally speed res plus, wind sweep, and speed res right. So actually some decent fodder here, right? Like you get a rally up, which isn't bad. Wind sweep is always nice. And then his new, his inheritable weapon T times set actually gives you Canto 1. And then if you initiate combat or if you're within 2 spaces of an ally, you're getting an attack and speed plus 5. And you're also getting offensive no follow. That's actually a pretty good inheritable weapon. That's not bad. It's definitely not arcane levels of good, but it's like very solid, right? Canto 1's really good for ranged units. Attack and speed plus 5 gives you just the amount of stats you kind of need, right? It's like the bare requirement. And then offensive no follow-up lets you run something like wind sweep or some other effects as well. So actually, this is a pretty good inheritable green tome. Not bad. We'll definitely be waiting for the arcane tome, but until then, this is probably the best inheritable green tome we have. So very nice. Hopefully, Ferdinand has a really solid stat line. I think it was shown, but I'm not exactly sure. I can't remember. Okay, here is Ayra and Mercy. This is where the game might break. I am honestly nervous. So we have T times Edge, we have Supreme Astra, and then we have a second page of skills as well. Let's start off with our preference weapon, T times Edge. Okay, so T times Edge, essentially what this has is a new type of Canto called Canto Distance plus 1 Max 4, which is ridiculous. What this essentially does is after you do an attack, assist skill, or you break a structure, you can move spaces equal to the number of spaces you moved from the start position to the end position plus 1. So essentially, the more you move, the more Canto you get. That is stupidly powerful. That is absolutely ridiculously broken. That is so stupid, I don't even know how to explain how good that is. Typically, every other Canto has been balanced by the fact that the more Canto you use, the less Canto you get. Or you have a fixed Canto, right? And that's what you always get. This one is ridiculous because you just get more Canto. You can get up to 4 spaces of movement. This is completely and utterly stupidly good. Like, this is ridiculously powerful. If you don't have Canto control, Ayra is just going to run in, hit you, destroy you, and then leave, right? Like, and actually leave. Like, be so far away you can't keep up with her. That is stupid. That is so powerful. Then we also have Slaying. And then at start of combat, if Ayra's HP is greater than equal to 25%, she's going to get attack and speed plus X, where X equals 25% of the foe's attack at start of combat minus 2. And that's a minimum of 6 and a maximum of 16. Yes, you heard me right. 16. Holy crap. They are really like, they're going insane here. 16 attack and speed in your weapon is ridiculous. That's like so much stats to get from your weapon. And the thing is, it's based off the foe's attack like at the beginning of combat, right? So it's even the visible attack stat. And the thing is like attack stats have been inflating so much nowadays that like you're probably going to get 16 quite a bit of the time, right? Like that's you only need like visible 66 attack, I believe. My math might not be right, but I think visible 66 attack, which is a lot, but it's not unheard of, right? A lot of units do have that. So even if you're not getting like the max 16, you're probably still getting like 12 plus at least, right? Which is stupid. So Ayra's gonna be extremely fast and hit extremely hard. And that's not it, of course. She also gets 22% true damage based off her speed. It does not work with AoEs, notably. And she also neutralizes effects that inflict special cooldown charge minus X. So she gets the anti-guard effect. This weapon is busted. This is an extremely powerful weapon. And the craziest thing is that she's just so mobile, right? Like you're adding insane damage plus mobility. Now the one thing she is missing is survivability, right? But I think that's going to be coming in her B slot. So we'll get to that in a second. Let's move on to Supreme Astra. What this does is boost damage by 40% of her speed. And then at start of turn, if her special cooldown is at maximum value, she gets cooldown count minus 1. And then after her special triggers, she gets cooldown count minus 1 as well. So this is really strong. Essentially what this means is like you're pretty much always going to have Supreme Astra up 24/7. The only way you won't have Supreme Astra up 24/7 is if like you do combat, then you get danced, and then you like attack again. Then it will be on 1 cooldown until the next turn, and then it will be recharged again. This is really, really good. This is an amazing offensive special. It's just going to allow you to just constantly proc your special and just do so much damage. Also, you have to remember too, like, this isn't after combat. It's after the special triggers. So what that means is like during combat, when you proc Supreme Astra, it will recharge Supreme Astra during combat. So that means you can hit twice with Supreme Astra, which is really scary. That's horrifying. The question is, like, is this inheritable? My guess would be no, but it's not impossible, right? We thought Battle Astra wouldn't be inheritable, and it was. So we'll have to wait and see, because there's no border around it, obviously. But if this does become like an inheritable special, it's gonna be very, very broken. Like, I can imagine, like, you know, Brave Selef or like Summer Shez running this, and things are just gonna explode. So I kind of hope it's not, to be honest. Anyway, let's continue on and see what the rest of her kit has. So we have Attack Speed Clash 4, not a surprise there. And we have Flow Desperation, and this is exactly what I thought the skill would be. It looked like a flow skill, and it looked like the Desperation mark, so it just made sense to me. What this is going to do is you're going to inflict speed and defense -4 on the foe during combat, and then you're going to get offensive no follow-up, and also you'll get a Desperation effect if you meet one of 2 conditions. The first condition is that your HP is less than or equal to 75%, so the normal Desperation condition, and then the other is if you've moved at least 2 spaces. So you need to move 2 or more spaces, and then you'll also get the Desperation effect. This is good. This is amazing. This is probably the best flow skill we've gotten for offensive calves, which is typically what you want to do with flow, because it's not like a dual phase offensive no follow-up, right? It's only when you initiate combat. So I think this is amazing. This is going to be really good on a ton of calves that want to just do damage. It's going to allow them to hit really hard twice in a row, right? And for Ayra, this is amazing because her only weakness really is her bulk. She has no way to really like reduce damage or to like survive an attack like Brave Self does have this miracle. So having Flow Desperation will just allow her to go in, hit with Supreme Astra twice in a row, and just destroy something. So that's horrifying. I'm very, very scared to see this on other units. Harmonic Roy could use it really well. A whole bunch of other casts could use it really well. This is going to be some very valuable fodder. The thing is you have to kill Ayra, who's probably the best user of it. So that's something to consider. Let's talk about Ayra's roles. And the number 1 role, obviously, is nuke. That is what she wants to do more than anything. She wants to be a nuke. She wants to destroy things. And she's going to do a pretty good job of it. She can also be an amazing hit and run unit. Obviously, that Kanto is completely and utterly busted. So Ayra could probably go in, like, break up a capture ball, maybe destroy like a near save, and then she could get all the way out if the opponent doesn't have Kanto control, right? So that means that Kanto control is going to be even more valuable than it currently is, in my opinion. Now, when it comes to her ability to nuke things, I think she's not going to struggle too much. Of course, the one thing she doesn't have is any type of damage reduction piercing or having, but even so, like, she just seems to be doing so much stupid amount of damage. Like, it's going to be hard to, like, keep up with, right? Like, 2 specials back to back without being able to retaliate, 1 billion true damage, and, like, 1 billion attack and speed. Like, it's probably going to be enough where she can overcome units with a lot of damage reduction, but we'll have to wait and see, of course. We have to do some testing, but she looks really strong. She also has Red Feud 3, which is actually a sleeper good skill right now. I think a lot of people are kind of sleeping on this skill. It allows you to destroy Omni Tanks right now, because so many Omni Tanks are God Swords, and just being able to turn off, like, all their support and also like make them lose 4 speed is enough a lot of times to let them get killed. So I think this is actually such a valuable skill, and it's great that it's on her base kit, because it's going to make her a great God Sword killer. When it comes to game modes, I think Ayra is going to have 2 main places she's going to show up. The first is going to be Aether Raid's offense. I think she could be an amazing tank buster, right? Because nowadays, when you get to the higher ranks of Aether Raids, a lot of times what you're going to run into is a very powerful capture ball. They're going to have something like a very good far save, like Brave Elgard or from Mortis or someone like that, and they're going to have a support unit in the back protecting them, like Fallen Maria or like Duo Ymir or something like that, right? And it becomes really hard to bust that. And the best way right now is to do something like an AoE, but I think Ayra might be able to do it. We'll have to see and do the testing, of course, but that could be a very good role for Ayra, being able to just go in there and destroy things, right? And then getting out really easily. So you can go in with like the safety fence, destroy that frontline unit. The safety fence will protect you for a turn, and then you just go back in and clear out the rest of the team very easily without their near save. I think that's one big role she can play. The other game mode she's going to be very good in is Summoner Duels, I imagine. Duo Dagger Congo lines are very, very good on most maps. There are some maps that really can't like run that kind of strategy, but even like this last map we did with like the super flyer favored map, there were still people running Duo Dagger Congo lines. They still work, right? And I think Ayra can get onto there. The one thing she doesn't have is forward movement, but being able to just Kanto like completely back to your team without having to rely on Pathfinder is going to be insane. And when you do use it with Pathfinder, she's going to be able to go even farther. Like she's going to be able to go from like the enemy team all the way back to the start of the map. So I think she's going to be very good there in that kind of strategy. Let's move on to the final thing, her Harmonic skill. Let's see what this does. So this gives attack and speed +6, Resonance Blades, which is attack and speed +4, unit can move 1 extra space, that turn only, does not stack, to unit and allies from the same tiles as unit for 1 turn, and neutralizes any penalty on the unit and allies from the same tiles as unit. Okay, so I take back what I said. I said that one weakness she had was that she didn't have 4 movement. I was wrong. She does have 4 movement. It is only once per map, but that's all you really need for summoner duels technically. Typically, you'll either pop probably like Duo Dagger's Pathfinder skill, or you'll pop this to give everybody extra movement. And then she's gonna be able to go in and hit really, really hard, right? She's getting more attack and speed. She's getting effectively attack and speed plus 10, which is really, really strong. The neutralized penalty thing is kind of a mixed bag, right? Because it is very good typically, but if you are trying to go for like a legendary Robin team, which is very common, then obviously you don't want this. The thing is that typically Robin does not fit onto those kind of teams. He's typically more like in a catcher ball or some kind of like stall team or something like or like a raid boss or something like that, right? He's typically not on like a high mobility team, so this probably won't be that big of a problem. And the fact that you can get +1 movement is really, really strong. I don't think it's at the level where it's like broken, like it's not as strong as like let's say Duo Thors per se, but it's probably like 1 tier below that. So I think it is very strong, and a lot of times this is going to be enough to just allow you to go in, hit somebody really, really hard and kill something, and then use her cancel to get all the way out. So I think this is a very, very good harmonic skill, and I expect to see a lot of it in SD. Okay, let's move on to the final section of the video, should you pull? And the answer is I would wait. That is my completely honest answer. We do have some great reasons to pull here. First of all, we do have like a Lystihea with Desperation 4, which can be very good. Also, Sigurd is going to be a very cool and unique hero, just like Legendary Sigurd in some ways, but being able to engage a little bit more safely, which will be very nice. And the last we have Ayra, and I think Ayra is going to be a very powerful sword cav who's going to be an annoyance to deal with. Now, when it comes to the cons, the thing is that I don't think any of these units are like meta defining. I think that they might be like very, very good units, and they might be at the top of the meta, but I don't think that they're so like unique that we can't live without them essentially, right? We already have units like Summer Shez and like Brave Seliph who kind of fulfill the same role as Ayra, maybe not to the same degree as she does, but it's going to be in the same general like ballpark essentially. So I don't think these are like must pull units, though they are very cool, I have to admit. I'm very, very, very into these units. The other reason, of course, not to pull on this banner is that Choose Your Legends is less than like 3 weeks away. So if you're definitely interested in any of those units, you're going to want to save orbs for that, because everyone gets multiple sparks on that banner typically, meaning that you're going to want to spend a ton of orbs there if you are like going for fan favorites, right? And then lastly, of course, we do have the Mythic or Legendary banner at the end of this month, and this one's actually really stacked, right? Like red is going to have Emblem and probably Lystihea in it. Blue is not that great, but green has Legendary Ninian and Legendary Robin, which is like a top tier share, and most likely we'll get the new Mythic or Legendary in that color as well. So green is like god tier. It's like probably one of the best green pools we've ever had. And then in colorless we have Ashera and Ash, and then possibly Riyard and Tana as well. And while most people don't really care about Ashera and Ash as much as I do, Tana is like a top tier unit, right? Like Guidance 4 is just broken, so if you are like a big ST player, you're probably going to want to pull there as well. So there is a chance that like you might want to save orbs for those other banners. Now the cool thing is this banner does last a month, meaning that you can just wait, right? See what the Brave units look like, see if you're interested in their kits or like the skills they have, and then summon for this banner after, because you have plenty of time to summon. There's no need to rush. So my biggest recommendation is to wait. But now I'd love to hear from you. What do you think of this banner? How excited are you for these new skills and these new heroes? Do you think Ayra is busted and she's going to break the meta? Or do you think she's just another sword cav that's going to like fade after a couple months? I'd love to hear your opinions, so make sure to drop a comment down below. And of course, I'd like to thank all my members for their constant support. And if you enjoyed the video, like and subscribe. This has been Oblivion. I'll catch you all later.